Welcome into the final roundtable of a very eventful November. It's December next week. Do you realize that? No. I know, right? Joining us, Democratic political analyst Marianne Marsh and Republican political analyst Rob Gray. It's great to see you guys.
All right, here on OTR, we set off a firestorm last week on the issue of immigration and President-elect Trump's plans for mass deportation. Incoming border czar Tom Homan took issue with comments from Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, comments she made right here on our show. Here's how it played out. What will Boston's response be if these mass deportations take place?
Yeah, look, elections have consequences. What we can do is make sure that we are doing our part to protect our residents in every possible way, that we are not cooperating with those efforts that actually threaten the safety of everyone by causing widespread fear.
Well, she's not very smart, I'll give her that, because what I just said is President Trump's going to prioritize public safety threats. What mayor or governor doesn't want public safety threats out of their communities?
What's your response?
Look, people can say whatever they want about me. This isn't about me. Our public safety record speaks for itself. We are the safest city in America, the safest major city in America here in Boston.
Now, Governor Maura Healey also says Mass State Police will not be taking part in mass deportations. She did say violent criminals should be deported. Now, the Mass GOP says Boston should cooperate because measures proposed by President-elect Trump will keep Bostonians safe. Now, we don't know a lot about what these mass deportations will look like, but a lot is at stake here in Massachusetts. What do you think is going to happen here, Marianne?
So Tom Homan picks the mayor of Boston, who runs the safest city in America, who happens to be the daughter of immigrants, and attacks her, calls her names, threatens her, all under the name of public safety. Seriously? Come on. Like, that is clearly, this is politics. This has nothing to do with public safety. And that's what it is in the end. And by the way, both in Boston and Massachusetts, there are laws against this. So they don't have to cooperate. So good luck, Tom Homan.
What do you think?
Well, I think that Homan is hard-edged. But he's also a guy who has decades of experience in immigration enforcement under both parties, okay, Republicans and Democratic presidents. President Obama gave him an award in 2016 for his effectiveness in enforcing immigration. So he knows something. And let's face it, it's not just Michelle Wu. The entire state of Massachusetts has an open border, has a policy which is out of step with other states. We have a lot of illegal immigrants here. 3 were arrested this week in Massachusetts for child rape. So,
in the last couple of weeks, but yes,
in the last couple of weeks, reported this week by ICE. So it's a serious issue, and I think Americans want strong enforcement.
If there's a warrant, yes, of course. And the example you cited were all warrants. But this is more like for show, going to businesses, ripping people out of them, ripping people out of their homes and all that, and there's no place for that.
Well, listen. People voted for immigrants to be deported. I think the Trump administration is going to focus on the criminals first. Well, people in a lot of cities here, a lot of cities in Massachusetts went to Trump, and they have a problem with illegal immigrants living in the city. That's a lot of why Massachusetts was the 4th largest swing state to Trump from 2020 to 2024.
Trump picked up 5 points here in 4 years.
Yeah, he's still far behind, but people are fed up with some of this.
Next item, Elon Musk, who has taken on the role of Trump enforcer, accused sanctuary cities of protecting child rapists. He praised ICE for making arrests here in Massachusetts. We were just talking about that. And said politicians should be recalled immediately for not cracking down. He is the richest man in the world. Trump will soon be the most powerful man in the world. They're appearing everywhere together. Matt Gaetz took himself out of the running for AG, but Musk is reportedly set to target any GOP members of Congress who vote against any Trump appointees by bankrolling primary challengers. Will that type of intimidation work, Rob?
Listen, Musk spent $200 million on a super PAC supporting Trump. So he's willing to put up the money. So I think you have to take it as a real threat. However, the GOP advantage in the Senate is 53-47. Trump needs those Republican senators, whether he likes it or not. He's going to take out Susan Collins of Maine as a liberal Republican in a primary. Elon Musk is. Well, guess what's going to happen? The Republican candidate's going to then lose the Democratic election, and Trump's advantage in the Senate is going to be down. So it's a threat, but it would be a dumb threat.
Bark worse than the bite?
So here's the real point. Musk wants to be oligarch number 1. and anything gets in his way, he is going to go after. So remember, he is only a billionaire on the backs of federal subsidies. SpaceX got $15.4 billion. Tesla got $2.7 billion. He's a billionaire off the backs of everyone. He will then go in and his little committee, strip out trillions of dollars, say the government shouldn't be in these businesses, and then make them his business. Last point. He, 2 weeks ago, said that they should end the EV subsidy, which is $7,500 for all EV companies. Guess who's the only EV company that will be left standing? Tesla.
Congresswoman Catherine Clark, reelected as House Whip for Democrats, but it did come with a bit of grousing from some of the more purple state members of the minority party, the progressive tilt of the Massachusetts delegation rubbing some the wrong way. Is Bay State Blue fading in influence after this election, Rob?
Well, here's the thing with Catherine Clark. She voted with Joe Biden 100% of the time. 65% of the country thinks it's on the wrong track. 58% of the country disapproves with the job Biden is doing. So she's out of step with the country. I think she's also out of step with a lot of Massachusetts voters. Our delegation is far, far left of your average state's delegation.
What do you think, Marianne?
Did they say that about Hakeem Jeffries from New York City or Pete Aguilar or Ted Lieu from California? I think not. Massachusetts only has 9 members of Congress. 3 of them are in leadership. 2 more are ranking members on the most important committees, Rules and Ways and Means, and 2 others are subcommittee ranking. So we punch above our weight, but that's more politics and sour grapes than it is anything else.
We continue on the record. Stay with us.